and welcome to today's segment of The Power of Money. I'm your host, Michelle Graves, internationally and nationally known as the Money Lady. And my commitment has been over the years to bring you the best of the best in the area of money, people, things that you just need to know and may not have thought to even ask. So today I am so excited about this show. And the reason is because I have as my guest for the next hour, Deborah Ooten, and I should say Dr. Deborah Ooten, who is a PhD and is the founder of Consciousness in Action. She is the CEO presently of Conscious Dimensions, LLC. She is the director and the founder of the School of Conscious Living with headquarters in Cincinnati, Ohio. And her reach is national and international on how to live a vibrant, exciting, grounded life. So I'm excited about her being a guest because I'm telling you, this woman is high energy, no nonsense, has her stuff together, and she's an alpha female, which I am, which helps a lot to give me a lot of balance. So without further ado, because I just have a ton of questions I want to ask her, and I get to do it, I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Deborah Ooten, who is the founder of Consciousness in Action. How are you?
I'm great. It's always good to see you.
Oh, you're so kind. You are so kind. Where do I begin? When I look at your credentialing and background and PhD in clinical psychology, whew, that's all about people.
It is. That's
and
what I'm
evolving.
All about. Exactly.
Geez, where do you begin? Tell me how you wound up on this road.
Wow.
It's okay.
You know, it's one of those roads that you kind of, I think I knew really early, like around 3. I know by 12 I was saying things like, I'm going to be Sigmund Freud.
Oh my God.
So, the other thing I said was I could also be a Vita.
Yes.
So
yes.
I ended up in the Freud category.
I think so. I think you did a better
It
choice.
was, I came from a crazy family, and so from there, you start to go, wow, how did we get this crazy, and how do we correct it?
Don't you think
how
all
do
of
we
us
heal
come
it?
from?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the family is the most dysfunctional unit on earth.
Exactly. It's
We
set
don't
up that
pick
way.
our family relatives.
Right.
We're born into it.
Right. For lessons.
Yes.
For lessons that we can learn as we go about our own life.
What is the greatest lesson that
For
we
me?
have? Yes.
Oh boy, that's a big one. I think the greatest lesson is to love.
I agree.
I mean, 100%. It's to learn to love across the board.
With no bias. Why is that so hard?
Because we're so different, we're so similar and we're so different. Mm-hmm. I think we look over at another person and we start to look at what's different from us. We also project. Mm-hmm. We project our own inadequacies, our own fears onto the other person.
Huh.
So like, you serve as a mirror for me and I serve as a mirror for you is one way to look at it. So if I don't like something about myself, I can put it on you and call it, don't like. And that makes it hard to love. Because it's hard for us I think it's hard for us, Michelle, to own our own shadow.
Own our own shadow. What does that mean?
Well, I think for me it's like there's the light and the dark. Mm-hmm. The light and the dark, good and evil, you could look at it. It's not outside of us, it's inside of us. Mm. And there are aspects of each of us who would go, well, I really like this about me, and I don't like this about me. And the key is to love all of it, to love the stuff that you don't really love about yourself. And if you can embrace that, I think then that's owning the shadow.
Loving is not liking.
Loving is not liking.
So how does one differentiate the two in terms of personal growth?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've never had that one.
I'm going to challenge
That's
you.
good. I like that. So I can see something in myself that I might not really enjoy, and I can hold the space for it. I can hold the space for the paradox, the beauty of me and the not so beautiful of me. There was a movie, I think it's like Water for Elephants or something like that. Is that a movie?
Yes,
I miss these kind
yeah,
of titles.
I do too.
I didn't really get through the movie because at one point there was the owner of the circus was beating the elephant.
Oh no, I'd have to leave.
I did. I lost my mind.
Yeah, I have to go.
And I got really upset and started crying. And then all of a sudden I realized I am the elephant, the circus owner.
You're both.
And how can I love and hold the space for both of those in me, knowing that I'm both?
That is very, very interesting. Very. Now, I tell people all the time, because I am a person that loves people. I just love them unconditionally. I always have. I've loved animals. I love everything. I just love life. And I tell folks I even love bugs, and they're a challenge.
They are a challenge.
They are a challenge, because particularly these little stink bugs that are everywhere now.
Wow. Right.
And I said, but you have a purpose. I just don't know what yet. You have the right to exist, but I don't know about coexisting.
Right.
But you do have a right to
Let's
exist.
move you outside.
Let's move you outside. You
Right.
know, let's move you with your companions and go away. But when you deal with people, given the longevity that you've had in this area of psychology, why are people so unhappy today?
I think they're looking for something outside of themselves to make them happy. You know, happiness, that's kind of fleeting, isn't it?
It is fleeting.
I mean, that's something that kind of moves around.
Yeah, it does
morphs.
move around. It does
But
move around.
for me, I think people are unhappy. If we say unhappy, I think they're unhappy because they're not content with what is happening in the present moment. I'll often say, if people are in the past, they're going to be a little bit, you know, kind of melancholy, depressed. If they're in the future, they're going to be anxious. Life only happens in the present moment. If you're not in the present moment, you're not alive. And so many people walk around, Michelle, not alive.
My
You know what I mean?
goodness. So they're stuck in the past
Or in the future,
or
worrying about the
looking
future.
about the future rather than actively living in the right
in
now.
the present moment.
Ah, how hard is that?
That's very hard.
It's very hard.
That is very
That's
hard.
very hard.
That's very hard. Now, I think we're probably in the present moment right here
Oh, we
because we're
definitely
right
are.
with each other.
Yes.
But we could be in our mind thinking about tomorrow. I'm not.
I'm
but
not.
Yeah, I'm right here.
This is great.
And
I'm
so
right
if you
there.
can do that, I think that the fears, the worries, the unhappiness, those kind of go to the side.
Because can you
don't
really
exist.
change what has not come to pass or alter what has has already happened? You
Well, we
have
can
no
change it in our mind.
Yeah.
I mean, and we do all the time. We might look at you and I might look at, let's say we're from the same family. We have the same mom and dad. And we might look at that family and go, you might say, oh, mom and dad were fantastic. And I might say, mom and dad were a little tweaked. And it's because we're coming from the different perspectives.
Right.
Yeah. Can we alter the future? I think we can. Because every choice that we make has consequences, and it takes us down a certain road. Of course, we can always make new choices each and
Yes,
every
we
moment.
can. We have that opportunity. But do you feel, I've been really looking and meditating on this issue of fear and how fear has so altered the course of the ability of people to live and to thrive.
Absolutely, and I think that's true.
I'm right. That's where I've been on heavily, which is why can a person actualize the creativity that is resident in them? And I keep bumping into this thing about fear, that fear keeps them from loving unconditionally.
Right. In the Course in Miracles, that's a book that was, written, I don't even know the authors, but many years ago. And they say that there are two states of being, fear and love.
I believe that.
I think that's true.
Yeah, I think that's
Fear
true.
and love. Fear is not present moment. It's something we conjure in our mind. I mean, we really don't have saber-toothed tigers walking around right now.
I hope not.
Yeah.
Not.
There are some things to be challenged with, but you're going to know it in the moment. The hairs are going to stand up on the back of your neck, and you're going to go, no, no.
Right.
But fear, that state of being called fear, is what takes us out of the present moment, and it also separates us from all that is, or love. Love is the is the container, and fear separates us from that.
So, if a person or even a culture is operating out of fear,
right,
then not much love.
Can't be a lot of
Can't
love.
be.
And fear feeds itself, and it just grows and gets bigger and bigger.
Is that the reason for meanness, you think?
I think there's many reasons, but
Is fear the core?
Fear is a core issue. Sometimes in my teachings I'll say that, you know, and it's kind of provocative, but I'll say that fear is often associated for me with darkness or Satan even. Love for me is associated with light or goodness or God. And so if we can think of it from that way. Now, for me, I think we have to bring both of them together. We have to reconcile those. We have to somehow see that they're both in the container.
Right, but which one drives the person?
Well, I think there's a Buddhist saying that says it's the one that you feed. It's the one that you feed. So if you're feeding your fear, like if you're worrying about the future, then you're going to feed that fear, and that's going to drive. If you feed the love, that's going to drive it.
Right.
Right.
So let me ask you this question, because when we look at cultures and evolution, do you believe that fear can become a part of the DNA of a cell? We're getting into my field, but do you think that fear that is generational? Case in point, the African American experience in America with slavery, where the people were crushed and their souls were shredded.
Right.
And so fear became
a huge part.
Operative word. If you didn't obey, you were hurt. If you didn't obey, you were killed. Is it possible that that has become a part of the DNA?
I think that, so if we look at the evolution of humanity, there's a great way to look at it.
Yes, let's do that.
Look at it from what we call spiral dynamics, which is something that Dr. Claire Graves brought to us, oh gosh, a long time ago. 1974 is the first time I read some of that work. But he talks about the evolution of humanity. And in fact, you know, it started about 100,000 years ago. And we started being very instinctually based.
Instinctually.
So things like, you know, we really didn't have fear because we weren't thinking about those things. We were just responding to what was present. We're kind of like the smartest animal, if you will.
Yeah.
And then the next stage, which, you know, eventually evolved, we were more like, we figured out that if we banded together, we would be okay.
Right.
And so we developed a sense of community, connectedness, still not a lot of really critical thinking going on. That next stage that comes up, I'm going beige, purple, red. So the next stage is very much about us being our own selves. So there's a distinct self that's being communicated. I think that's when fear started to really come into play. So fear of one another. Because it was a very difficult time of us going, it's going to be me or you. You know, it's going to be me or you. If there's a me or you, it's going to be me. That's right. And so when we start doing that, it's going to be me, then we start being afraid, distrusting. I think I heard you say something about, like, it could be a bad marriage or something.
Yeah.
Then we start to be afraid of one another. And I do think it's called memes, mimetic value memes. Memes are like memes, genes, themes, and so forth. So the meme can and does encode the DNA in each and every one of us, and then it radiates commands to our whole being.
Right. That is something I would really.
It's good stuff.
I know that is very good stuff, because I pick up energy from people. I have guessed.
Right.
I can read a situation so clearly. When I was a child, I just thought it was just kind of odd. But as I'm an adult and now I'm a senior, I look at it and I said, nuggets of insight maybe or wisdom, I don't know. But I do know that when you get stuck, if fear has been the operative communication
Right.
venue for an entire people, that if they want to progress, the fear is that they will be stopped or hurt, particularly hurt, injured, bodily harm, physical harm.
Right.
Then I am just wondering, and that's your area, if that can be encoded into the cell.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank
it
you.
has to be.
It has to be.
Right, it has to get into the DNA code because it becomes, it's something that just continues to happen. Now,
Right.
I'm not a geneticist, so I don't really
No, no,
know,
no,
but
no,
I would
but
say
you- but probably.
just from an evolutionary stand.
Because it's like birds always know where to go back to.
Right.
And that's genetic and evolutionary. But that's what they've been programmed to do.
Right.
And they've seen their parents and grandparents, and so that's what they know, and that's what they do. They always return to a certain place.
Absolutely.
And I believe human beings also have those
Sure.
attributes. I want people to be free, Dr. Ooten. I don't know what that looks like.
You know, it's really hard. It's hard and it's very simple.
Tell me.
It's love. It's embrace love. It's to know that we're here, I believe, on earth to love and to generate that feeling of love. And when we reside in some other, the fear or the anger or the the hurt, the pain, it separates us from who we truly are. And who we truly are divine beings. We are
Right.
we are gods in our
Yes.
own right. And so Mayor Baba was a great guru, a great teacher. And he said that God created, he said man, but I'm going to change it. God created human beings so that he could have an experience of himself.
I believe that.
So that means, to me, we're gods.
Well, he replicated
holy.
himself.
We're,
Yes, right.
Absolutely. And so if we could just know that and stop pretending that we're small or that we're ugly or that we're stupid or that we're any of the things that we use to keep ourselves enslaved inside of our own little cage.
That's a good term you use about being enslaved.
Right.
Because over time, it's got to be miserable.
Well, I think we all start to suffer.
All of us.
All of us. Human beings are so vulnerable. I mean, you know that.
Yes.
I mean, we could be taken out with a look.
Yes.
I mean, it can change our entire,
Yes.
countenance just to be
Yes.
hurt or abused or actually struck. So, we're pretty vulnerable beings. And so if we could just, come at it from a knowing that we're all vulnerable and approaching everyone as if every human being that I come into contact with is Christ or the Buddha or whomever, then we're going to be treating everybody with love instead of with something that's going to hurt.
Right. You know, that's so powerful what you said. Of course, I'm in private practice and I deal with a lot of seniors, a lot of people that are older. And I had a call yesterday from a woman who I had called. She asked me to call, wrote it down, because I make people write stuff down. She wrote it down, said, I need to talk to you about, and she named the areas. And I began to call her and leave no call back, just call. So yesterday she called me back. And I was eating, and I don't like to talk when I'm eating, and I said, oh, I'm delighted to hear from you. I was a little concerned. And I said, but I'm going to have to call you back. And she said, that won't be necessary. I don't know why you're calling me. And I said, I'm calling you because you asked me to. Well, my husband doesn't want to deal with this. And slammed down the phone. And you know what? For a minute, I felt myself like that human experience, which is, what?
What happened?
What happened here?
Right.
And then I thought back and I said, there's something going on in her world that's not good. And I don't need the dynamic.
Right.
So it's fine. And I just released it.
Nice.
I just released it, but I can tell you there would have been a time, even as recently as 15 years ago, when
Sure.
I would have had that kind of a experience, and I would have internalized that.
Sure. Most
which
of us
is,
do.
why did she do this? Why did she say this? Why? And I just found that I can't do those things
Right.
anymore. I
Right.
just can't do it.
It takes too much energy.
It takes too much energy to process something that I didn't have anything to do with.
Right. It didn't arise in you.
It didn't arise. It did not.
Right.
Is that on the step? Is that one of the steps?
I think that's to recognize that. So for me, the most important thing is to note that everything arises in me.
Okay.
So everything I believe is whatever I believe, that's what I see.
Mm-hmm.
It's not you see what you believe, it's what I believe, my values, my beliefs, and create my world. So for God's, we're creators. And so I'm creating my world in each and every moment. You're creating your world in each and every moment. Well, what world do you want to create is the question that I would ask people. I actually was teaching this weekend, and I asked the students, what are you responsible for? What have you created? You
That's
know?
very powerful.
Yeah, it's like, well, what do you want to do with that?
What do you want to do with that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What do you want to do with this, let's assume, this one life? If you have one life, what do you want to do with it? That's big for me.
That's big for me.
Yeah.
That's why I'm focused on living a life that counts.
Right.
To have
And
the,
it gives back.
Oh, must.
A life of service.
Must.
Exactly.
Must.
Right.
Or else I just die.
Right.
Literally.
Well, that's true, because if you're not in the present moment, if you're not doing a life of service, this is my take on it actually, but then you're not alive in the, you're walking dead. I think that's a new movie, but I haven't seen it.
I don't know, but it's a very apt expression, because I have said that often. You choose to walk in a dead zone.
Yeah, exactly.
You choose. Why
Right.
would you choose to walk in a dead zone?
Why would you put your energy there?
Right. So how is it, from your perspective, and this is a panoramic, when I look at your background and working in a psychiatric institute and working with curative and hospitals and all these different things, what do you feel is the commonality of your expression? Service?
So, I have a mission.
Okay.
I developed a mission a long time ago. I put words to it, maybe 30 years ago, but it's to walk with my hand in God's, and for me that's universal consciousness, to bring consciousness to every human being that I come into contact with, and then to make my living doing that. So that way, and it's not reversed, it's not make my living and that's the second one, because money is not the driver. It's nice to have money, but it can't be the driver for me.
Right.
So what that means is that that I'm in service to humanity. I see myself as somebody who comes and assists. That's what I'm going to do.
And helping people to break out of the egg?
To break out of their, whatever it is that they're in. Chains, shell, cage, whatever it is. Because we enslave ourselves in so many different ways.
That is so amazing.
Yeah.
Do you think that humans have a penchant for this? Wanting to be enslaved?
Yeah, that's a good question. I believe that there are so many universal laws operating on us to keep us asleep in every given moment. So it's very hard for human beings to wake up. We live on a very dense planet. And so you have to be practicing self-awareness, self-remembering, self-inquiry on a minute by minute, second by second kind of life, so that you can wake up and go, is this live or is it Memorex? Remember that? You remember that?
Yes, I do.
love that.
Is it live or is it Memorex?
So am I living my life in present time, or am I living a memory?
Or am I living somebody else's memory?
Oh, indeed. Am I
Because
living
that's
somebody
back
else's?
into, your parents and your family. And
I was coming back from Asheville the other day, and
beautiful city.
I love that. home.
Ah.
And there's this big billboard, and it has this machete, and it says, "Create your own path." And I thought, that is a truth. Of course, they were selling the machete, but create your own path. So
Yes.
the other thing I say is, if you see a path before you, it is not yours. Because
Really?
paths that are already laid, that belongs to somebody
Somebody
else,
else.
like you were saying. It belongs to your parents or to your culture or to your
Yes,
whatever,
yes,
not
yes.
to you. Yeah.
Viewers, let the camera come and read my face. Did you just hear what she said? She said paths that are already laid are not yours. And that's the truth.
Yeah.
Do something that's uniquely yours. Yes.
Absolutely.
That's not as simple as it sounds, though.
No. Usually way showers or way seers or people who build their own path. I mean, you know, some of them do great things and some of them don't, you know. But what happens is there's usually a pushback. If you step out of the line, you know, of the way it's supposed to be, you're going to get pushback. You're going to get something.
Pushback from who?
Well, from the culture. Let's look at Martin Luther King. You were talking about
African
American culture, and so let's look at Martin Luther King. What a great man of service! What
Great
a
man of service.
Servant leader.
Yes,
he was a servant leadership.
Yes,
was
he
huge.
was.
And so for him, what did that cost? What was the cost? His life.
His life.
His life. And a lot of times when people go, no, I'm not gonna go in this direction. Let's go in a different direction. They get hurt. They get taken out because it's too big of a threat to humanity, to the status quo.
Is it that, you think?
I think it is on some level.
So if we suggest that there is a, quote, operative status quo, that basically means that there are a number of people that think like that.
There are,
and see their preservation as encapsulated in that.
Absolutely. They're on automatic pilot. So, you know, if you're on automatic pilot, you're getting up and you're doing what you believe you're supposed to be doing, not what your soul tells you to do, not what your physical body tells you to do, none of those things, right?
Right.
So
as I see it.
Yeah, well, as we see it.
Okay.
You know, here we are.
Okay.
So hopefully we won't get shot for this, but, you know. And it's okay with me if I do.
Oh, I'm fine with it.
You know, a lot of the great way showers end up crucified, shot, killed, marginalized.
Yes.
And some of them don't. And you know, it's just the matter of, can we walk our own path? Can we lay our own path? Can we really be true to what it is that's arising inside of us, you know?
So why is it that women all over the world catch it? I'm serious. This is not this is not a U.S. issue. You know that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
And the project I'm involved in.
Right.
Why is it that women cannot actualize into their creativity as in aggregate, as a group?
Well, you know, I'd have to go inside myself. I'm like, well, I think some women have. Some groups of women have.
Okay.
You know, how do we get, you know, more than 72 cents on the dollar? I don't know. I don't know about that. I'm not sure how to do that, but I think that women are creators. You have to
well, we birth.
Exactly.
We're birthers.
That's scary for people. That's scary for the other sex in some respect, would be my guess. I mean, we have a lot of power. And how is it? I mean, well, it's, you know, if you look, there's a great book by Frederick Marx and Engels called The Origin of the Family. And it basically says how we got into this place where men are in charge is we started to own property. So the minute we start to own property, that means there's value in that property.
Right, and less value in
what the woman does.
What she does in terms of birthing. And
right. But
they made women property.
They did do that.
I'm serious. I'm familiar with
That's
both
true.
gentlemen.
That's true.
They did make women and children.
Well, once you start
property.
defining things as property, then
There you go.
It's a commodity.
It is a commodity.
So if you're owning something, you know, in the ancient times, in the beginning of our evolution, we believed that everything had a spirit.
Everything.
And I believe that even now, everything has a spirit. Everything is connected.
I believe that.
There's nothing that isn't connected. And so if you believe that, how can you enslave something?
Well, see, that's the thing that I have actually struggled with from a spiritual perspective, as well as just in terms of economics and allocation of resources. If you understand that we are all interconnected,
Right.
that the blood that's in you is the same as the blood that's in me,
Absolutely.
then how is it possible, unless you are mentally ill, and that's your area, I'm just an observer, how can one be so disconnected as to do the things that we find ourselves experiencing today? Worldwide hunger. And then which is we don't have enough resources. And I was like, are you serious?
Right.
Who told you that lie? Who said this? And at what expense?
Right. Right.
Humans? Is that what it's about? What are your thoughts?
You know, I really believe that I think human beings have two things. We're great problem solvers.
Okay.
Of course, we can't solve the problems of today with the thinking of today.
No, we cannot.
And we are also great categorizers. So we put everything into categories. And so when you put something into a category, you put it into something that's not me.
Oh, okay.
So if I've got this box with these people in it, they're not me. These people in this box, they're not me, and so forth and so on. And it allows some people to, to what I would think perpetrate, or some to even help. So it depends on how you're viewing it. But if you don't have them in boxes, if you're like all me, they're all me.
Yeah.
They're all me.
They're all. The person on the street that's homeless.
Right.
Is just as connected into my world as the person in the White House.
Exactly.
There's no
difference.
difference.
Right.
None. We're in a paradigm shift.
Again.
Talk about that.
Well, I think we are I could talk about it from a number of different ways. We could look at it astrologically or cosmology. And we're in what's called the 9th manifestation of humanity. The 8th manifestation was the time of suffering. So it was in the 8th manifestation that we got both Christ and the Buddha to show us how not to do that. We all experience pain. Suffering is optional. And so, so that's the key. And so they gave us some tools, how to manage our mind, how to manage our heart. In the 9th,
how to love.
How to love, exactly.
How to
love and
love.
compassion.
Yes.
The 9th manifestation is all about unity consciousness. So when you say paradigm shift, I go, okay, we have gone from a time of suffering to now a time of unity consciousness. So, and by the way, a manifestation is about 6,000-7,000 years.
Really?
So it's not a quick thing. We think, it's coming tomorrow, but it's been coming for a long time. And so we're 2,000 some years into this manifestation. So what we need to think about is anything in this new paradigm, anything that is not aligned with unity consciousness, anything that doesn't see how intricately connected we all are, will go away. So we don't even have to, on its own.
On its own.
Well, let's look at some things that are going away. The structure of money.
Yeah.
Schools.
Yeah.
The structure of schools that we have known.
Right.
We're getting a whole new way of learning.
Right.
Gosh, push a button.
And there you go.
There you are, right.
Okay, and never to return.
Well, it won't return that way.
Not that way.
It'll, we used to like use money. Money was shells and rocks, or moonshine, or whatever it was.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Whatever you could get to exchange.
And now we've just created a you know, a facade called money.
Yes, that's all it is.
Right, and
That's
so
all
now
it is.
that'll shift in my mind, and the way we educate will shift. The way we govern will shift.
Well, in fact, I think it's fair to say we're watching that right now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When you talked about bad marriage, and I did post it on my Facebook, that the lack of trust, which is integral to all human relationships.
Right.
The point trust is gone.
Right.
It's like a marriage gone bad.
Exactly.
How do you reconnect with somebody you don't trust anymore?
I don't know.
Well, that's what I said. I said maybe you need to ditch him and start all over with something new, because it just seems like it doesn't get any better.
You can't unknow what you know, and now we know. And now we know some things.
I know we know a whole lot of
Right,
things,
right.
Deb.
Yeah.
You can't unknow what you know.
Right.
Wow.
Can't do it.
How has technology impacted on consciousness?
Oh wow! Yeah, I mean, it allows you to have access to incredible things. Like you mentioned, some of the companies.
Yes.
One of the pieces of technology my group, my company, group of us got together and created something called Conscious Dimensions. That's the gaming company.
Okay.
So we have an app for 10 on up. 10 years old and
10
on
years old on up.
that teaches consciousness.
Wow.
Instead of killing and maiming.
Right,
and,
right.
No, it's a beautiful story about type 8, which is, my favorite system is the Enneagram. And so it's a beautiful story that brings in the child's imagination. It teaches them critical thinking. It helps them to understand that there's different ways of approaching, different levels of approaching any kind of situation. And so that's technology. That's impacting. You can also you can find out anything, anywhere.
That's what I call the leveling of the playing field.
Absolutely.
When a person can share with you information in Africa in real time.
Right.
Just you're on the Skype and you're talking about something right there, right now.
Right.
And it's impactful.
It is.
I mean, it really is, and it's funny because I know in times past we always thought we had a one-up on information and et cetera, and it's really different today.
It really is.
Because everybody
has access.
And actually the Eastern world has access faster and sooner.
Absolutely.
Because of time itself, the 12-hour difference. They get it 12 hours before we do. That is really profound.
If think about it, we get, and I would say a lot of the information we get is not the same information that's given to other nations.
It is, you're absolutely right.
So I think there was a thing on, I don't know if it was on your Facebook, but on somebody's Facebook that showed Time magazine a few weeks ago. And the Time magazine that went to every other country
was different.
Was the same.
Yeah, but
and the one that came to the United States was different. It wasn't saying what everybody else was saying.
Right.
So in a sense, the information that we get, we have to be careful with, because it can be programming, if you will. It's like propaganda.
I absolutely think it is, and that's why I share with people that thanks to the power of internet, you can look at everybody else's newsprint early.
Right.
I mean, in my case, 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
The Chinese a newsprint.
And you can connect with somebody who's in actual time.
Yes.
And get the
real
truth.
time. And get the truth. And
get their truth, right.
I just
wonderful.
think this is amazing when you talk about the transition and the unity. And I don't know about you, but yes, I do. As I tell people, please just be truthful.
Right.
Just be truthful.
Yeah,
it's okay. It's okay. We can live with the truth.
Right.
What we can't live with is distrust.
Exactly.
Because that's an old school model.
Very old.
Which is, I'm in control. And you're like, wait a minute, but you're not.
Right.
It's so obvious because you're crazy.
Right.
And your wife is nuts and your kids are dysfunctional. But you're really, really, really there. And I think that our young people are going to take the lead on this, though.
I think they already are. I mean, I think that the beauty of it is, you know, the good and the bad exists. We just have to hold it all and love it all, even though sometimes we might not like it.
Yes, exactly.
You know, so I think the young people, you know, it's like that song, children teach your parents well.
Yes,
I think they're
yes,
coming
yes,
in
Crosby,
and
Stills.
and they're coming in with their DNA. We talk about the DNA already a little bit more advanced than we are.
You're absolutely
They have
right.
more info. They have, you talk about that time when you were young and you were hearing things or seeing things. We all have that capacity, but it's sort of shut down incrementally so that we don't know. We fall asleep.
I like that sleep state you talk about.
We begin to dream the same dream that everybody else is dreaming.
Yes, right,
And
which is
in-
actually a nightmare.
Yeah, it is for some of us.
I'm like, oh my God.
It
you
is
really
for some of
believe
us,
that?
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we can stay awake to all of the connectedness that we have, I think those would be real keys. And the way to do that is to help our children grow up.
Authentically.
And not like put them in a box.
Yes. Well, I am.
I had a student who just said, I'm sorry.
No, go on.
I had a student who just said the other day, she has a daughter who's, I think she's 17.
Okay.
And she's going to be graduating. And
here we go.
You know, and she said, you know, and they're looking at colleges and, you know, affluent family that can afford whatever they need to do to get their kids into college. And the young girl says, I don't want to go to college. I need to take a year and just experience what's out there in the world, life.
While she's young.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, it's not just, it's like, well, how do I make an informed decision unless I've been to Africa,
Right.
India,
Right.
you know,
Right.
the Middle East? How do I make an informed decision about what I want to do with my life
Right.
when we're all connected?
Right.
Can't just make a decision based in, you know, well, I'm going to do this in Cincinnati. Because
So small.
Cincinnati is connected to everything.
Exactly.
And how do we impact everything?
So how did the mother deal with that?
She embraced it and said, let's figure out how to do that.
Yes.
Of course, you know, the other thing is the mother's like, oh my God, you know, I'm not going to have my baby. What am I going to do? Because she's going to be all over the world. And I just, at least when she's in college, I could go visit, you know, now. So, but she said, okay, I just have to breathe into that. Because, you know, she's a student of consciousness. And I'm just going to breathe into that. And I'm just going to say, okay.
Yes.
Yes, good
Yes,
for you.
good for
Let me
you.
help you with your journey.
Yes.
And if we can do that for the young, I think that's important.
Well, you got me there. I did something that was quite remarkable, and I think I may have shared it with you, where I actually moved out of my home and gave everything, contents included, everything to one of my children in anticipation of their first child. And people have challenged me, like, why?
Right.
And I said, because
Why not?
I'm not there anymore.
Right.
That's something I did.
Right.
But I'm really looking forward to moving on to new experiences.
Right.
And it's just stuff.
It's stuff that holds you there.
And I just couldn't do it. And you know what? I go and visit, and it doesn't even feel like I ever lived there. That's what's so funny. I walk in, and I'm like, wow, this place doesn't even feel the same.
A whole new energy.
It's a whole new energy.
Yeah.
It's their energy.
Yeah.
And I have been able to step into some things without just no baggage.
Nice. Well, you don't have any.
I don't.
The more, you know, do we own things, or do things own us is the question.
No.
And I think the more we accumulate, the more we get attached to. Now, I have a lot of accumulation.
Oh my God.
You know, when I think about it, but I'm also okay with it all going away.
Well, I tell you, I did take my art. Don't take away my art. But I also left a lot of pieces, and I just didn't care. It's a funny thing, that living life in the right now is so important. So where do you see yourself going? I know you're doing the Enneagrams, and tell people about Enneagrams.
Okay, so the Enneagram is a a typing system. It's a personality typing system. It's bigger than that, but the first hit is sort of like astrology. You look for a horoscope, when really you're looking at cosmology. And the Enneagram helps us to understand that there are 9 personality types in the world with multiple variations. But it's also the consciousness tool that I use. It's called the Fourth Way, that helps us to understand and awaken, to remember ourselves always and everywhere. And so it can be sort of a tool that helps you to stay awake. If you know the box, the Enneagram tells you, here's the box you're in. You know, we did a typing with you, and we know your box. And so we can say, this is your box. And these are the ways that you are on automatic pilot, that you're not living your own life, you're living the life of, you know, whatever that box is that you're in. How do you get out of the box? Well, the best way to get out of a box is to have insight around what the box is. So then we can say, well, as I'm a type 8, as a type 8, I know that I have a huge life force energy, and I can use it for good, and I can use it for not so good. And so what am I going to do with that energy? How am I going to not be afraid? How am I going to be powerful? Well, by being powerful, I have to be vulnerable. And so that box called the Enneagram tells me, well, you know, you try to hide your vulnerability. There's no reason to hide it. Go ahead and let it be. So that's the beauty of the Enneagram. Where do I see myself going with it? I can't see myself doing anything except teaching consciousness. So I don't see myself going anywhere. I do know that I'm not going to start any more companies. It's like, okay,
you're done with that.
I just got to let this go.
Yeah.
But I will certainly support anybody who wants to start something that is about consciousness.
Yes.
Because, I mean, you could come to me and say, hey, you know, you want to get in on something, let's say, I don't know, masks, since it's Halloween. So you want to get in on something for masks, and I would say, no, because my mission statement is to walk with my hand in God's, to bring consciousness. It might make me a lot of money to make masks.
But does it change?
Yeah, but does it change people's lives? Does it help people to understand that, you know, love is what it is, and that to live in the present moment? No, it doesn't. So I have to be a no for that. But if you bring me something like shea butter, and say,
Sheology.
If you bring me something like that, then I'm like, oh yeah, I can be a part of that, because it changes lives.
Yes,
you know,
it does.
It affects the largest organ in our body, our skin.
So you know, it's funny you say that, because you know, coming with my background in finance and banking, cold industry, godless industry.
Yeah.
Money is God. And but on the other side, with this biochemistry and all this other stuff, and the women, and being able to help women and children and women all over, it just was, again, that balancing of good versus evil.
Right.
And here it is.
Holding the paradox.
Holding the and saying, you know what, I'm dealing with this, but I really do know what the devil looks like. I'm not confused.
Right.
And the work that you all did on my Enneagram as an 8 helped me tremendously to be affirmed in where I was, and the vulnerability, which is, it is perfectly okay to say, what the heck am I doing?
Right.
Help! I need a lot of help right now, and I need help. Very powerful.
Yeah.
Life-changing, even.
You know, having studied psychology, having been about people my whole life, it was, you know, I found it like in 1974 at UC Berkeley, and then kind of moved away from it because I thought, oh, this isn't hard science. This is not good. Then I came back to it. It was life-changing. I mean, life-changing, because I had, you know, been in therapy and been looking at myself, and I just was feeling more and more not okay about myself. And so I thought, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? Why is everybody else so okay and I'm not? Well,
Right.
you know, I'm not the only one having that experience. Almost all of us have that experience.
That is what I just more recently found
Yeah,
out.
we
I'm
all
not the
feel like that.
We all
Yeah.
feel like that.
And
okay,
so it's like,
that human experience.
right, you know, I'm not lovable enough, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not adequate or competent enough. We are.
Yeah.
And so the Enneagram basically said, you're not broken, you're just this. And now that you know this, actually this is who you are not. So we could say type 8 is who I am not. Who I am is God.
Yes.
You know, is one with everything else.
Yes.
And say God is a difficult word for me to use because it's really, it's not God the Father, it's universal.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
yes.
oneness,
Well, His presence
connectedness.
is everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. This I'd like for you to talk about, because we've got, our time is almost up in it, and
Wow.
I'm telling you, we'll be here all day, and that's fine with me, but it's not fine with my producer. He has other things to do. But what would you say as we go into another year? 2014 is right around the corner now.
Right.
Where should people be? And I want you to answer that in terms of their thinking. I want you to also give a telephone number if people are interested in learning more about, and a website.
Okay.
Can you do those three things?
I can do those. Where do I think people should be? Wow, that's always a hard one. I think they should be where they are, basically in the present moment. But going forward, if we can, again, if you could take a practice, one practice, the practice would be meet every human being with your eyes open, looking into their eyes, into their heart, and know that, you know, we're all connected. And it doesn't matter what color the skin is, what country we live in, it doesn't matter.
It does not.
Doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl, just look at that person. And I think if we can do that in 2014, we can change, we could create critical mass. And
that would be nice.
And change from a fear culture to a love culture. And I think that's essential. Phone
We're
number.
there now.
Yeah.
We're fighting it, but
Yeah.
we're there now.
Yeah.
Okay, phone number.
Phone number. So it's 513-621-3600.
621-3600.
Right.
Area code 513.
513.
Your offices are headquartered in Cincinnati.
On Wellington Place.
But I know you have like little satellite
All over the place.
all over the place.
Right. And so then the website is www.goconscious.com.
Okay, www.goconscious.com.
Right.
Okay.
And if you go to that website, I've got a number of other websites, but they're linked. And so that one's the main website that'll take you where you need to go.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
That is so very, very exciting. Well, I just want to say that I find you to be one of the most amazing, and I don't use this term lightly, amazing, forward-thinking people, female, yeah, but people that I have ever personally encountered, and I have interfaced with many, many people. But what affected me in our interface is I said, God, she is so much like me. It was just an energy I picked up. I couldn't quite explain it other than to say, oh, this is, it's nice
There's
to
me.
know, there's me, there's some other people out here that are edgy too. But I think that your commitment to facilitating change, and one person at a time, and raising consciousness to who we really are,
Right.
is so apropos to the times that we're in today.
Right.
Because I'm going to tell you something, Dr. Ooten, this system is not working.
Right.
That's the bottom line.
Okay.
It's not working.
Right.
There are too many people that are hurting spiritually, emotionally, and physically.
Absolutely.
This country, it's the sickest industrialized country out here.
Sad.
Sad,
Right.
hurt, sorrow.
How can we not know?
How can we not know
Right.
that something is amiss?
Right.
But I am grateful for what you bring to the planet.
Thank you.
In terms of your vision and your hope, because it is the hope that enables us to embrace the change without fear.
Mm-hmm.
It is that hope, which is we know inside that this cannot continue.
I have faith that it won't.
Oh, I'm counting on
it has to, something has to change. Well,
Yeah.
you know, it will, because it has to.
It has to.
Chaos theory. It's going to change.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yes, because it has to.
Right.
Well, on that note, viewers, Dr. Deborah Ooten, fascinating woman, founder of the Consciousness in Action, and clinical psychologist, well known nationally, internationally, and I'm honored to have her as my guest on today's segment. And for those of you that are in conscious living, yes, I am a number 8. Bet you're not surprised, okay? And I thank you for being a part of my world today. And as always, God bless you and have a stellar week. I'm Michelle Graves. Good night.